Well, we're reaching the end of season 3, so episode 20 begins at the Black Pyramid. Well, good news for the Thundercats, they not only reclaimed all the long lost treasures of Thundera, as for the Lunatics and the mutants, they're now in exile thanks to Captain Bragg in the last episode. So, in the tomb chamber of the Black Pyramid, the ancient spirits of evil are now very upset with Mumm-ra. The reason why they're upset is because they told him that several times he tries to get rid of the Thundercats, but several times he failed. Let's not forget Mumm-ra, who's Mumm-ra's psychic. He's also there. Anyway, back with the spirits of evil who continues to reprimand Mumm-ra for his failures, and now he lost his allies because of that. So, Mumm-ra has his turn to plead his case to say they're the ones who deserve this punishment anyway. But they told him, silence! So the ancient spirit says, you're now on your own. You have until sunset to destroy all the Thundercats. So we decided to give you that chance, the spirit said. So the ancient spirit says, you're now on your own. You have until sunset to destroy all the Thundercats. So we decided to give you that chance, the spirit said. They also told him because if you don't, then this day will be your last. The last day, Mumm-ra said, but that's impossible. Impossible, you say? The spirit said. Watch and learn, they told him. Surprised, guess what the spirits of evil did? They decided to exile Mumm-ra, who's Mumm-ra's psychic. And when Mumm-ra saw it, he was horrified. He screams, no! Because he knows that his spirit servants are very serious about this. Mumm-ra is now all by himself, and then he was told by his spirits of evil, you have been warned. Now remember, you have until sunset to get rid of all the Thundercats. Knowing that the spirits of evil was serious about this, that's when Mumm-ra says, perhaps you have a point. You have spoken well, he said. So we know what this means. Mumm-ra now has no choice but to get the mission underway. But before he did that, he made his case quite clear that if he cannot destroy the Thundercats, then no one will. So he did what any bad guy would do. As always, he asked for his agent spirits of evil to transform him, and so they did. So after a long story short, the spirits of evil agreed to give him the super strength, so now Mumm-ra's now on his mission. So meanwhile at Cat's Lair, in the control room, we have Panthro, Lino, and Snarf. So Snarf, after all three of the Thundercats have felt something shake coming from outside, he asked, what's going on? So Lino and Panthro had suspected that it must be an earthquake somehow. Then they got a transmission from the Tower of Omen's control room. In there, we have the Thunder Kittens, Tigra, and Chitara. They suspected that same earthquake as the Cat's Lair did. So after Lion and Panther had confirmed the suspicions from Tigra and Chitara and is indeed correct, well, the good news, according to what Chitara said, there's no signs of damages at the tower. But now here comes the bad news. According to Chitara, there are earthquakes and volcanoes that are happening all over the place. Then suddenly the Castler's control room receives another transmission, this time by the Feliner in outer space. So we have Bengali, Pumira, Linkso, and Snarfer, who's Snarf's nephew. That's when Linkso told Lino in the Castler's control room that there's some more bad news. Then it's Palmyra's turn to plead her case. She said that according to the analysis that she just got from the Feliner's computer, it shows her, along with everybody else, about what would happen if those disasters didn't stop on Third Earth right away. Back on Third Earth and at the Castler's control room, that's when Big Alley has his turn to plead his case to say, in the next 12 hours, this could mean the end of Third Earth if something isn't done quick. Panthro then has his turn after he receives the bad news in the scenario from Bengali. He said that this is what happened to Dundera when it exploded, just like it did 2 seasons ago. Back with the Feliner in outer space, that's when Bengali made a suggestion with the Thundercats back at the Kessler's control room. He says that he's going to try to contact them before sundown. Okay, Lionel said. After that, Lionel says that I know that you're going to do your best. So after that, the transmission ended. Back in the field, Lionel Snurfer, who's Snurf's nephew, is now getting worried and concerned. He says, "Oh dear, we'll never rescue our friends in time by the time we get back." "I know," Linksel said, "but we'll have to try anyway." Meanwhile, back on Third Earth and at the Kessler's control room, that's when things got even more worse. According to Snurf, what they saw on the screen, they being Panther and Lino, because of the volcanic activities, all the trees at the Treetop Kingdom are on fire. If that's not bad enough, according to Snurf, what happened next was unbelievable. Because of the earthquakes, there's flooding all over the Burble village, and things got even more worse when there were avalanches in Hook Mountain. Panicked, that's when Snurf says, "Oh dear, our friends will lose all of their homes if something isn't done soon and fast," he said. So for Tanthro and Lionel, this is indeed bad news. Back with Lionel after hearing the worst news from Snarf, he asked Panther what he thought of it. Well, to answer that question, that's when Panther said, "The way I think of it, there are no earthquakes that I have ever heard of, and that means something or someone must have caused them, and he knows who that someone is." Oh, Lionel, after he confirms it with Panthro, he says that since there's no way that the lunatics and the mutants could have done it because they're since in exile thanks to Captain Bragg and his circus train since the last episode, so it must be you know who, none other than Mumm-ra himself. But now there's only one problem. Where is he? So what Snarf wanted to know is how they're going to find that out. And if that's the case, well, Lionel says, we can cover more ground if we split up. That way, we can search as much as we can, he suggested. So, Lionel told Snarf that his job is for himself and the Thunderkids to guard both of the fortresses at once, the Tower Woman's and the Cat's Lair. In the meantime, Chitara and Tiger will search north, while Lionel and Panther will go south. So in the Thunder Tank were Panther and Lionel, and so the Thunder Tank heads off. At the same time, meanwhile at the Tower of Omens, Tiger and Chitara head off in the Thunderclaw. As the Thunderclaw was heading off, that's when Chitara and Tiger receives the transmission from the Thunder Kittens in the tower's control room. So Chitara says, "Go ahead," and that's when Wily Kid said that there's volcanic activity that's coming from the east. So Wily Cat, who's Wily Kid's brother, suggested to Tiger and Chitara to go investigate. So that's what the Thunderclaw did. Back with Lion when Panthro in the Thunder Tank, they were watching it on screen, and that's when Lionel suggested to Panthro that Tiger and Chitara may need some help. So Panthro, who agrees with Lionel's suggestion, that's when the Thunder Tank decided to go in the same direction as the Thunderclaw did. Speaking of the Thunderclaw, back with that with Tiger and Chitara, and what they saw up ahead was unbelievable by the time they arrived on Fire Rock Mountain. That's when they saw Mumm-ra, not only giant in size and has super strength, but has the Zora Plundar with him. The Thundercats were in shock. So long story short, after Mumm-ra had pleaded a case to welcome the Thundercats, Tiger and Chitara, the Thunderclaw went in the other direction. And that's when as they were evacuating, Mumm-ra continues to plead a case to say how he uses his magic for super strength and etc. And of course, he also pleads his case. It was nothing that nothing else has ever seen, or nobody else has ever seen. But unfortunately for Tiger and Chitara and a Thunderclaw, they weren't fast enough, so they get attacked from behind. Back with Lionel and Panther in the Thunder Tank, that's when Lionel's sword told him that there was something wrong. So just like what any good guy would do, Lionel looked through his sword, and so he did. Then what Lionel saw was unbelievable. Tiger and Chitara on the Thunderclaw, now out of control because it was moments ago being attacked from behind, thanks to Mumm-ra. Well, luckily, Tiger and Chitara had made it out. After looking through the sword, that's when Lionel told Panther that the Thunderclaw had crashed and is at Fire Rock Mountain. "Then I guess we better hurry then," Panther said. So after that, the Thunder Tank heads off. Meanwhile, back at Fire Rock Mountain and with Tiger and Chitara, Now that the Thunderclaw had crashed, the giant-sized Mumm-ra, and with super strength, of course, continues to get closer and closer. Things are looking bad for them, as the giant-sized Mumm-ra just told them that this was the end for them. Long story short, back with Mumm-ra after he told both Tigra and Chitara to surrender or the Earth would be doomed and etc. But instead of surrendering, that's when Tigra went first to go one-on-one with Mumm-ra, but he didn't have a chance. And that's when Chitara was next to face him, but unfortunately she became his next victim as Tigra did. Back with the Thunder Tank that has Lino and Panthro, they just saw what had happened and they arrived on the scene. Then Mumm-ra has his turn to plead his case. He said, "Loyalty may be touching for you, Thundercats, but I'm afraid it's not going to save you from destruction." The Thunder Tank that has Panthro and Lino knows what to do. He decided to use a cannon for the Thunder Tank. So Panthro says, "Here he comes." So guess what Lino did after he pleaded his case with Mumm-ra to say, "Let's see if we can cut you to size." And so Lino uses the cannon. But unfortunately, the cannon didn't do a thing, and what Mumm-ra did is that he uses his sword while twirling around. It just repels it back to the Thunder Tank, but luckily for Lino and Panthro, they evacuate. Mumm-ra, he just pleaded the case to say that no powers are going to be a match for him, so Lino does what any good guy would do, or so what Lino thought, but before he could project the Thundercat signal, Panthro decided to save Lino, and so he did. So as an attempt of saving him, that's when Mumm-ra uses his power against Panthro. So back with Lionel now with three of his friends gone, except for the rest of them. But right now he's one-on-one with Mumm-ra. Well, Mumm-ra just caused a volcanic eruption at Fire Rock Mountain, but Lionel can take care of it. So what did he do? He shielded himself thanks to his sword's power. So back with Mumm-ra, he pleaded a case with Lionel to say, "I think this destruction's a little too easy, but I'm not going to destroy you, not this quick." Then Mama says, "Instead, I'll bury you alive under a mold in a stone." And so that's exactly what happened. Things are looking bad. Back with Mumm-ra, he just heard the voices of his ancient spirits calling his name. So Mama says, "Did you just call me?" Well, not only did the ancient spirits of evil said that they did, but they came to warn Mumm-ra. They said, "The sunset is drawing near. Time is running out." Then the spirits of evil continues to tell Mumm-ra that every time of every passing hour, the sun will get lower by the minute, and your superpowers is getting drained. So you're going to be weaker every time, they said. Just before Mumm-ra can begin to plead a case, that's when the spirits told him, "Remember, you have until nightfall, and if you haven't destroyed all the Thundercats by then this day will be your last day." Then meanwhile, at the Tower of Woman's control room, remember the Thunderkins that were there? That's when Wily Cat, who's Wily Kit's sister, just told him that there's something or someone that's heading in their direction. And when they looked at the screen, they couldn't believe it. Mumm-ra, and he's on his way there to the tower right this minute, unless the kittens did something about it. Long story short, as Mumm-ra gets closer and closer to the tower by the minute, he then pleaded his case to say that the first thing on the agenda was to get rid of it. So guess what he did? He uses his sword to attack the tower itself. So in the control room, when the Thunderkins had found out what had happened, they now had no choice but to evacuate. Well, good news, the Thunderkins had managed to escape, but the bad news is that Mumm-ra had just destroyed the Tower of Omens. Back with the Thunderkins who made their escape, they're now on their way to Cat's Lair. So meanwhile there, remember Snarf? He's at the Cat's Lair's control room. What he did is that he's contacted the Liner, which is still in outer space, by the way. So, in outer space with the Liner, we have Linkso, Palmyra, Bengali, and Snarfer, who's his nephew. And so, after the Liner had received the transmission, that's when Snarf gave Linkso the bad news. He said that Lionel, Panthro, and Chitara and Tiger are missing. And Snarf says, "Wait, there's more. Here comes some even worse news. He said that good news the Thunderkittens had made their escape before the Tower of Omens was destroyed. They're on their way to the lair, but unfortunately for the Tower of Omens, it was moments ago had been destroyed. Then Snart says, here's something that's even more worse. Mumm-ra, who had just destroyed the tower moments ago, he's also on his way and he's pursuing the Thunder Kittens. Snart says, oh dear, I don't think the Thunder Kittens are going to make it in time. Now just take it easy, Linkle said. Calm down. Pull yourself together. Remember, you are a Thundercat after all, and of course he's not kidding. So Snarf says, you're right, but what am I going to do about it? Then Linkle asked Snarf a question. Do you remember when you and Lionel were in the Book of Omens one time? Then flashback would go back to 9 episodes ago when Lionel and Snarf went into the Book of Omens by accident, thanks to Lionel's sword, of course. It was also at the time that the Guardian was asking about the key of Thundera. That was until it was discovered later that thanks to Panthro he found it. Then back in the present with Linkso in the feliner in outer space. Linkso was told by Snarf, oh yeah, I remember it all right. And it was the worst experience that I ever had, Snarf said, and the scariest to say the least. So Linkso said, listen, here's the plan, but I'm afraid there's a slim chance. I need you to go back inside the Book of Omens. Snarfu didn't like that idea. He said, go back, are you kidding me? So Linkso said, I need you to go to the sword chamber and get the key to Thundera. Then also the Thunderscope, so that you can use it to get yourself inside, just like what you did with the sword, Linkso said. Now, because of what Linkle said, Snarf is really worried, and then asked a question. Do I have to? Really? The next question from Snarf to Linkle was, what else could he do once he's there? To answer that, Linkle said to Snarf, once you're there, make sure you show the Guardian the key of Thundera to him, and then he can tell you how Mumm-ra must be defeated once and for all, Linkle said. Then Snarf asked, yeah, but what if he doesn't know? Well, the Book of Omens does have the Thundercat's secrets after all, Linkle said. The Guardian has to know. And then Snarf had a worst case scenario and said to himself that if the Guardian doesn't know what to do and tells him how to stop Mumm-ra, then he'll be stuck in the book forever. Well, granted, Linkle said it is the worst case scenario if you don't get into the book, he said. So you know what this means. It's now up to Snarf to save the day because Snarf panicked and said to himself that if he doesn't, then this could mean the end of both the Earth and the Thundercats if it happens. So he figured if something must be done about it, then so be it. So he told Link, so by golly, if that's the way it has to be done, then I'll do it. So Snarf heads off to the sword chamber. So meanwhile, at the sword chamber, and once inside, Snarf says, oh dear, I really don't want to go through with this. But if I want to go inside the book anyway, I might as well take the rest of the treasures with me. And the key of Thundera. And that's exactly what he did. Story short, while the Thunderkins are trying to hurry to get to Cat's Lair and fast with Mumm-ra still pursuing them, back with Snarf at the Cat's Lair and in the sword chamber, remember the Thunderscope that was discovered in episode 17 just 3 episodes ago? Well, Snarf did what Linkle suggested and used the Thunderscope to get inside the book. So he did. Now that Snarf has no choice, after he went inside the book, he was surrounded by the 4 pillars with dragons. Now, that's the exact same pillars that he saw for the first time. So, the Guardian just told Snarf to identify himself, and so Snarf did. Do you have the key of Thundera? The Guardian asked. Well, Snarf not only said that he did, but not just that though, but he brought all the other treasures with him. Like, first of all, the Chain of Loyalty that was found since episode 7, and of course the Mirror of Truth from episode 12, the Bracelet of Power from episode 15, the Jade Dragon of Doom from 2 episodes ago, episode 18, and also the Totem of Dara from episode 6. So Snarf panicked and told the Guardian, please, you have to help me find a way to destroy Mumm-ra, because if you don't help me, then Third Earth is doomed. Just like what Snarf feared, long story short, the kittens didn't make it to the lair thanks to that creep Mumm-ra. So why the kid? was the first to arrive somewhere else, and so was her brother and Chitara. And when she saw them, she says, "What are you two doing here? Where are we? What's going on?" But wait, Chitara and her brother, Wily Cat, are not alone because here comes Panthro and Tigra. So even though Chitara told Wily Cat she's not sure where they are, but she says that they're not alone because there's Jaga and he's with them. That was after Chitara said that Jaga's going to help them out, and wouldn't you know it, he was there. And so he told the rest of the Thundercats, "Listen, just because you cannot see or hear me doesn't mean you shouldn't lose all hope." So they, including Jaga, appeared in front of Lino, who's still trapped in the molten lava back at Fire Rock Mountain. So meanwhile there, the moment Lionel saw his mentor Jaga, that's when Lionel says, "Am I glad to see you? You come to help me, right?" "Well, yes," Jaga said, "but I'm not alone, because who else is there but Lionel's friends? They're with Jaga." Jaga said that here comes a problem. Your friends can't see or hear you, and the reason being is because they're trapped in limbo. So Lionel asked Jaga, "Tell me what to do. What's the plan?" Well, according to Jaga, the plan is simply this, that he and his friends will go inside the Eye of Thundera. That way, with the strength of the Thundercats combined within the sword itself, it'll give you the strength that it needs. So it'll get you out of here, Jaga said. So, long story short, after Lionel learned about his mentor Jaga's plan, he said, "Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go." So Jaga's spirit went inside the sword, but not just him, but also Lionel's friends. Once that was finished, both Lionel and his sword, and along with his sword's power, they got out of that rocky prison, thanks to Mumm-ra, or should we say, the molten prison. So both Lionel and his sword had just arrived at Caslera in just the nick of time. That was after, long story short, Mumm-ra was going to do with Caslera just like what he did with the tower when he looked over his shoulder and saw Lionel. Well, back with Lionel now that he's face to face with Mumm-ra, and that's when the Sword of Omens had just told Lionel that there's a message from Snarf inside the Book of Omens. The moment Lionel saw Snarf in the sword side, that's when Snarf says, "Pay attention! Listen to me! The guardian of the Book of Omens just told me the good news. He said that Mumm-ra's super strength can only last until sunset, and if he hasn't destroyed the Thundercats up until then, the spirits of evil will punish him. Wait," Snarf said, "here's some even better news. If you survive at the end of the day, then this could mean the end for Mumm-ra." Then after that, the message ended. And speaking of you know who, he knows that time is running out, so he pleaded his case with Lionel to say that time may be limited, but that will give him some time to destroy Lionel, or so he thought. So Mumm-ra and Lionel began to have a combat with each other. So speaking of you know who, he just told Mumm-ra that his time may be limited, but Lionel's isn't. And that's when he began his combat with Lionel, and it went on and on and on and on and on. But each time, with every passing hour, as Mumm-ra's Spirits of Evil said, that each time the sun gets lower and lower, Mumm-ra's powers gets weaker and weaker by the minute. And that's when the spirits of evil just told Mumm-ra that time is running short, and that's when Mumm-ra just told his spirits of evil that he may still have some time left, or so he thought. Or so. So when round two of the fight began with Lionel and Mumm-ra, it continued to go on and on and on and on and on until when things were looking bad for Lionel, and that's when finally Lionel just told Mumm-ra the bad news that his time was up. And it's just what the spirits of evil told Mumm-ra. His super strength is gone. So after Lionel had told Mumm-ra that he had survived at the end of the day, that's when Mumm-ra knew that what his spirits of evil told him was true, and what Snarf told Lionel was true. And that's when he screamed in horror, "No!" Then after that, Mumm-ra went back to his mummified form again, and if that's not bad enough but good news for the Thundercats, The spirits of evil appeared out of nowhere and told Mumm-ra, "You had failed in your mission. Now you must pay the price." And just like what they did with Mumm-ra's canine pal Muhammad, Mumm-ra is now in exile too. So long story short, just like what Snarf said, and after Lionel knew that he had survived the end of the day, it was time to call his friends from his Sword of Omens by rejecting the Thundercat's signal. And when he did, here's some good news. Tigra, Panther, Chitara, and the Thunderkittens are now no longer imprisoned in limbo, and as for Linkso and the others in the Feliner from outer space, told you we'd get back to them later. They have finally arrived on Third Earth, and what's even more better, it was thanks to them Third Earth is saved. Oh, what about Snarf? Oh, don't worry about him. He's still in the Book of Omens at the moment. And now he's pacing back and forth and he's wondering what's taking Lionel so long and why he hasn't gotten out of that book yet. But not so fast. Guess what Lionel did? He did get him out of that Book of Omens. And he appeared right into the meeting room along with his nephew and his friends. So what Lionel did after Snurf was set free from the Book of Omens to join up with his friends and his nephew, that's when Lionel thanked Snurf for everything that he did. And had it not been for him, then Lionel would never have survived the end of the day, and that Mumm-ra would never have been defeated when he did. So Snarf not only agrees with Lionel and appreciated his compliment, he said, "Well, gee, it's all part of being the Thundercat, I suppose," he said, and he's not kidding. So not only is Third Earth is safe, and so are all the Thundercat friends' homes. So you know what this means. Now that all the bad guys are in exile, the Lunatics, the mutants, and of course Mumm-ra and his canine pal. So you know what this means. All of the Third Earth citizens will be sleeping in peace for a change. Not only that, Lionel also said that not only are their Thundercats friends' homes are saved, and the bad guys won't be bothering them anymore, and of course, better than that, all the Thundercat treasures have been reclaimed. It was only a matter of time for the Thundercats to leave and to go to New Thundera. But the question of when is anyone's guess. So that ends episode 20. Thank you for watching season 3 of Thundercats, but don't worry, I got more on the way, so stay tuned for season 4. Make sure you give a thumbs up, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you real soon.